DeerHunterPodcast, a platform created to entertain, educate, and evolve the modern-day deer hunter. We'll talk about your deer hunts, your move, just kind of, I feel like you had a big year. I kind of want to talk a little bit about the custom gear stuff and spending time with the D'Acquistos and that series, whatnot. So
yeah.
Basically, I just want to get caught up and get all the. Whatever. I've been kind of on a binge over the last couple weeks of getting caught up on everybody's podcasts that I typically listen to because I was super busy, like with work from like August, September, October, and November was just basically I was like kind of. I don't know, man. I shouldn't even been putting podcasts out. I was so goddamn busy with work, but I did manage to get, like one out a week. I missed a couple of weeks, and that's the first time in 3 years that ever happened. But, dude, it was a fucking struggle.
Yeah, sometimes I know what you're saying. You get so busy, you're like, fuck. And then, like, we'll do, like, 1 or 2 weeks in a row. And, like, man, those were just, like, podcasts. Like, nothing. You always feel a little like okay about them, but you just don't feel like they were what they could have been.
I hear that. So we'll get started right on rocking and rolling right from there because that's a good thing to start on. I'm joined this evening by my friend. Are you still going by Curt Geier, or do you got a new?
I guess that's just what I go by. I don't know. I don't really go by it, but
it's catchy though.
It just gets brought up like whenever I'm on a podcast, so I'll go with that. Yeah, I still go by it.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know.
Thanks for having me, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We, I don't know, it takes us a long time to always get our schedules to match up, but so
yeah, like what, every year and a half or something, we figure it out.
Pretty much, yeah. I think we're good for every like 8 months,
Yeah, that's probably more like it.
So what's worse? Phoning in an episode or not putting one out altogether?
Oh, you got to put one out,
right?
You gotta put one out.
But I know what you're saying. Like you always want everyone to be like really, really good because you never know. Like if this is somebody's first time listening, and are they gonna listen to this and then be like, "Fuck that show! Right. I'm never gonna listen to that again. That was bad,"
Yeah, exactly. Well, a lot of times too, and like because if you do a podcast every week, like it's. Not everyone can be absolutely incredible when you do one every week. Like some are going to like reign over others. And then some like you just don't feel as good about. Not that they were bad, but I don't know, man. It's tough to do, especially like when you have co-hosts and like have to get like a crew together, to do your show the way like you're known for doing your show. It can kind of taxing, especially when we don't all live right next to each other anymore.
Yeah, so let's step behind the curtains of Working Class Bowhunter here for a minute, because I'm curious, and I know a lot of guys that listen to this show, listen to your show. How do you guys? I mean, you guys really have to seriously make a commitment to give up the amount of time that you and the other guys to show up and to spend time doing this. I mean, you moved this year. You had a kid. Everybody's lives constantly are changing, but you guys really do make a commitment to get together and sit down. And I know that takes an unbelievable amount of time. Especially, I mean, we're around the same age. We have families and everything. It's
right.
How do you guys do it? Do you guys all just sit down and say this is what's happening, hard line, or?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, so like back when we first started, we've never missed a week, so we're really proud of that. And we've been doing it for 5 years. It'll be 5 years this year. It's more just like early on, we're like, oh, we got to stay consistent, chip away at it. Then it sort of kind of turned into its own like little creature. Like I consider the podcast is kind of like its own little monster now, where it's like this business that we have to like keep running, which we enjoy running. But the cool thing about it, like Eric, Steve, myself are the three main hosts, and then we have like Mustache Doug is kind of like our fill-in guy. So it's kind of nice. Like if Eric's busy, has to work late, we're still covered on like the same camaraderie of our show. And Eric also lives like closer to an hour away from where the studio is now. So we all have the commitments to do that. But if Eric's not at the show, like he's shipping orders for the store. So like we're always doing something for the podcast. Even if Eric or Doug or Steve doesn't make it to the show. But it's tough, man. It's hard to get everyone together, but it's fun though. You get together with your boys once a week and drink beer.
Yeah, it is a ton of fun, but it is a serious commitment, especially when you, like you guys do, you are coordinating with, you're coordinating with over the phone interviews, other guests as well, and then you have to try to coordinate their schedule with your schedule, and then those other guys' schedules. Do you have do you guys set out a schedule for like a month or whatever ahead, or is it a lot of it just flying by the seat of your pants?
We've done a lot of both. Like all of last year, almost every single episode, like we were booked out like, 5 months, 6 months. So like it was just, and we finally got like chipped up through there. I was trying not to book them any more than that, but yeah, there was somewhere we'd have our Google Calendar, and I would send out the invite to everybody, everyone that was hosting or going to be a guest, and then we just stick to it like that. But then once we got caught up on that, because that feels kind of overwhelming, because you have people that pop up like, dude, I'd love to get on the podcast. And you're like, well, I'd love to get you on too, but in order to get everybody together and all this, like it's going to be 6 months before we can do it. So now I try not to go that far anymore. And now we kind of do them on a week by week basis. So coming into like ATA and then like the Nebraska show we're hitting, probably after that, I'll probably schedule out several weeks in advance, because we're going to try and do more in-studio guests this year, with having the new studio and rebuilding it, and then do less phone interviews. But we'll see how it works out. A lot of our friends live kind of far away, so I always want to talk to them and get them on the show. So we'll see how we can pull it off. But this year it's going to be more the style of by the seat of our pants.
Do you have like objectives and content specific guests? I mean, is there a direction that you guys are trying to go in, or more content that you want to focus on? Do you take input from what people send into you? I mean, how are you choosing who to have on and what kind of content you're focusing on?
That's a good question. Kind of like, yes, a little bit of all that. So a lot of it is really just based on our mood, because we want to keep having fun, so like we don't want to just do stuff. Like I get doing what the listener wants, because a lot of that is what we want anyway, because of like a different time of the season, whether it's like early season or out to shed season or during trade show season. A lot of what listeners want to hear is stuff we want to record anyway. But then a lot of it too is like, I just might want my buddy Clint Casper on, because I love the guy and he's a blast to talk to, and listeners kind of love hearing him go nuts on the podcast too. So a little bit of everything. And then I like, having some reoccurring guests, like some of our really close friends that we just click with. Just always makes for like a good, just random pop-up show or bullshitting type episode.
When you initially, I guess this is a good thing to go right back to kind of ground zero. I don't know that I have listened to episode number 1 of the...
Ooh.
Yeah. I don't think I have, and now that I'm thinking about it, I might want to go back and just see how this all manifested. But what was your thought process? I guess, when was the first even thought in your head where you were like, oh, I'm going to do a podcast? Were you like writing before that, or doing content for anybody? Were you doing anything as far as the, in the hunting community, aside from it just being a hobby? What was your ground zero for starting the Working Class?
I had done like little corny type, like online, like a web series show before, and just kind of, I don't know, wanted to do something in the industry one way or another, and when I was younger, I was like trying to figure out, like when I was like 18, 19, 20, I was like trying to figure out what I wanted to do in the outdoor industry. And like, that's when everyone was like, oh, I'm starting a TV show. You know what I mean? Like doing that. And of course I thought that was like really cool. And it is really cool. So I started filming my hunts and did like that little web series. And then I realized like I don't know, the crew I was with and all that, I just didn't like it. So, and I was back then, I was really into podcasts already. Like that's when, not long after Joe Rogan Experiences was going and some of the other like comedy podcasts. And I'm like, man, there's got to be some good hunting ones. And no offense to the ones that were around. I don't even remember which ones popped up when I searched like hunting podcasts, but there wasn't like anything at all back then. Like very select few. And it was a lot of like if your dad was completely square, that's what he would listen to, you know?
Sure.
Like a little bit. It's like it just wasn't for me, and it wasn't for like my friends and guys I knew that hunted. Not that it was bad, just wasn't really for us. I was like kind of kicking around the idea. I'm like, man, that'd be cool to start one. I kind of sat on it for a while, and then it was. I've told this story a bunch of times on the podcast, or just random, so I'll kind of make it quick. I put out a tweet, and I don't know why I even did it. Because it's not like something I would do. I just put something out and put, I think I'm going to start a hunting podcast, but I don't think anyone would listen. And then what's funny about it is Steve, who's our co-host, Steve followed me because of the web show thing I was on. So he followed me on Twitter because of that. And then he had a comedy podcast locally, and he read that tweet, and he had just got into hunting. So that's why he followed me, you know, and he reached out and said, hey, I have a comedy podcast with my friends. If you'd like to come over and check it out and see if it's something you'd like to do. And I went over there and was a guest on their comedy podcast, which I don't think you can find anywhere anymore. But
I'd like to hear that.
It was called the Good Sirs podcast. It was actually really funny because it's all Steve and all his comedian buddies. And then after that, like Steve would not leave me alone, just would not leave me alone. Like, I remember sitting in the tree stand, and the reason why I didn't start it earlier is because it was hunting season, and I remember hunting, and Steve texted me like, "Dude, let's go get equipment, man. Let's go to Guitar Center and pick up some stuff." And I barely knew Steve. I didn't know how bad I was going to like podcast, you know, how much I would like podcasting. So I kind of put it off for a hunting season. I wish I would have started earlier because it would have just been, you know, we would have that much more skin in the game than we do from starting when we did. You know, we put our first episode out early 2015, like I think March 1st or March 2nd or something like that was the first episode. Might have been before that.
Yeah, that's crazy. So
but I don't know, man. Random, super random.
Did you know any of those?
Happened.
Did you know any of those other guys before, or were they met through that as well?
I knew Eric. This is kind of funny. I met Eric through. I played volleyball with my wife and my sister-in-law at a bar in his hometown, and he showed up and he had PBR shorts on, and I had a PBR, and I was like, "Hey, you want me to get you a PBR?" And then he had only been hunting a year or two by then, but him and his buddy, which would have been Doug's older brother, filmed each other hunting. And then we just became friends, and then it turned into Steve and I would go shoot 3D shoots, and then Eric joined in with us, and then we asked Eric if he wanted to do the podcast with us, and then it kind of just snowballed from there.
So you guys, you forked out your own money for equipment. Did you have any kind of audio experience, or did you have to figure all that stuff out?
Dude, I had to figure it all out, man. Like we started with like $10 mics. I think they're $20 with the cord. The mics we have. Honestly, this is the funniest part. The headsets we have still in studio, the ones we started with, I think we paid $9 for each headset, right. And I just ordered new headsets yesterday.
Wow.
And they've lasted 5 years. So this goes to show you, like, you don't have to buy the top of the line of the stuff, like of stuff, just to get going. But yeah, we basically forked up the money. I bought a new computer and everything just for it. Once I realized we were going to do it, we liked it. And yeah, man, it's kind of funny thinking back.
Got your $9 worth, huh?
Yeah, man, for sure. So you know what I did? Man, I'm so white trash. This just proves it. So what I did is to order new headphones, I ordered all the same $9 headphones.
Did you really?
Yeah. I'm like, man, they lasted so long and they just, I don't know why. I don't want to, I like them now, you know? I
What
don't
are
want
they?
something I hate.
You gotta share. I mean, that's sounds like a value of a lifetime.
Yeah, they're the Samson HP 10s.
Huh.
Just over the year, I mean, they're all peeling apart now and falling apart. Actually, I got to lie. I reordered them. Me and Eric got nicer ones. I wanted to get some high end. And when I say high end, I paid $50 for my set, just because I'm monitoring sound.
Yeah.
I just want something I might be able to. But fuck, who knows? I might throw them in the trash and go back to these $10 ones.
Right on.
It's pretty funny.
What was I guess what was some of the biggest challenges in the beginning? I mean, you're working a full-time job along while doing all this, and everybody else working full-time jobs, if I'm correct, as well, right?
Yeah. Yep. Making the time, and that was the biggest challenge at first, you know. And then, but once you got we found a little bit of our groove, it became super fun, you know. So that quit being as much of a challenge. But I would say learning just some of the little stuff, like what to do, what not to do, as far as just the technical audio, sound, and shit like that. I still fuck up, dude. You know, just not realize some settings clicked off or this or that, and had to go back and mess with it. But I'd say just getting your groove to where you're not putting out an episode and then going, oh shit, I got to go back and fix this. Getting out of that, and that takes a while. I still do it from time to time.
It's hard. I mean, yeah, I make little notes now as we're going. If something happens where I know I need to make a correction, I'll mark the time, because in the beginning I didn't do that, and then I find myself, I was like, oh my God, when did that get said? And
Right.
rarely, I mean, I'm talking maybe a dozen times within the last 2-3 years of doing this where I had to go back and clip something, or something happened that, whatever, there's 3 minutes of dead air, or however it worked out. But yeah, now I'm pretty good about making myself a little time mark, so that if I do need to go back into something, I can find it right away. Because I mean, it's not like you have time to, or an editor or somebody that's re-listening to the entire thing and tweaking through it.
Yeah. Yep. No, that's something we started doing too. And, we learned our lesson. Somebody'd say something where we wanted to cut it, which, it does not happen often. And then, you got to go back and find that, but, I've had kind of the same experience. I've had to edit, really, I think, 1 or 2 episodes. I can only think of one right now off the top of my head, where I had to cut out a 5-minute segment.
Right.
Because
I'm amazed that's the only one time that it's happened on your show.
Yeah, me too, man. Considering some of the shit we say and how loose we get, because sometimes we just don't care, man. We'll just air whatever, because it's, in my eyes, I'm this is how people are talking in hunting camp. So
right.
Whatever, people are going to appreciate it if we had the balls to put it on our show.
I get that, and I greatly appreciate that. But I mean, you've had some higher profile guests. And, it's usually with, I think along with that, where they, sometimes might have something where it's I wasn't really supposed to talk about that, or this or that, but.
Yeah, we behave. If Jim Shockey's on, we got to do our jobs. Behave. Jim Shockey's on, show some respect. We're not dropping F-bombs on the guy. Right. The one we had to edit, I'm not gonna drop their name. But they let us into this part of the conversation, so we're just chit chatting, and at the end they're like, "You got to cut all that out," and I'm like, "Oh, all right. I see."
Right.
That's some top secret type stuff. That doesn't get. Well, I never have a chance to talk about that sort of thing, all the behind the scenes stuff that ever got cut, or just shit we did. But yeah, that was one major times I can think of. There might be one other, but I honestly can tell you what it is right now.
Yeah. I've steered clear of, one, I don't have the contacts. 2, I really often, I don't have the time to try to track down and make schedules meet with higher profile guests. But the other part of it is too, I almost feel guilty goat roping them in having them on, like knowing that they've never listened to the show, and then they have them on, and then they're like, oh yeah, I went back and listened to like 3 or 4 episodes, and yeah, I'm not feeling too good about being roped in with you hooligans, but you are right. I mean, and that is what it makes podcasting outstanding. I mean, for years you've watched the household safe stuff on the networks, and it's just, and like you were saying when there was a few podcasts when you started, I think the term is vanilla.
Yeah, that's a good term.
It's very
good term.
It's very vanilla because they want to play it safe and appeal to a broad audience, and I understand that. If you want something that's brand safe and household safe, and you're really trying to make a living off of it, I guess more power to you. But I just
for sure,
there's just always been enough of that, and like you said, inside the hunting industry, when I went to deer camp, it never sounded like that to me, or I wouldn't even want to go back.
Yeah, nobody would.
Right.
It's that's fine to be that way and everything like that, but it just doesn't like it's hard for people to like attach to what you're doing because you're almost like not a human being if you're too tight and like vanilla like that. Right. Because it's like everybody has their personality. Like that's why our show like works well. Like with Steve's personality clashing with mine, clashes with Eric's. That's why I guess why I think it works well. But it would suck, if all 3 of us were just like super uptight. It just wouldn't be the same, We'd be something else. We wouldn't be a working class bow hunter. We'd be, I don't know what we'd be.
It would be awful. There was a higher profile group in the outdoor industry that attempted to start a podcast. It didn't last real long, and they had one of the main guys on. And he said something about having a cocktail after he got his deer, and then he said, "Oh, can I say that? Do we need to edit that out?" And I'm thinking, can you have a drink? Like that is the reason why you're probably not going to last long in this space, because if you're not even, you're not becoming clean, you're not even letting people know who you really are. How are they supposed to, I guess, attack?
Man, that is weird. That's super weird. But I don't know, man. To me, I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. I can see what people do it. They don't want to make anybody mad, make anybody upset. But in my opinion, it's better to make like 10 people upset because there's going to be 30 other people that are like, fuck yeah, that's awesome. And you're going to have a more loyal following. And to be honest, like, man, we hear some of that, like the way we talk, like, hey, my kids are in the car and you're cussing up a storm. But I get that. That sucks that you can't listen with your kids in the car, but I marked it explicit, like I did my job, and you got to realize that if I hit that explicit button on there on that episode, we say fuck in it. Like I can promise you.
Right.
And like to just show up like our show, we kind of talk about that on our podcast, and Steve's like, well, it was marked explicit and you clicked on it. That's why you only get to see your kids on the weekend. Like doing Steve's joking, like that's just like our harsh humor sometimes. And I feel like our listeners get a kick out of that because that's what they expect from us. Like people who know what we do, it works better because there's something like we have personalities. There's variation. There's like shit that'll shock you. Like, oh man, they said that. That's hilarious, or just anything like that. And I think that's better to have than to have. Oh, we're super safe, and you're going to play this for your kindergarten class. Like I don't want that.
Well, it's adult content. And
exactly,
if people are listening, they should be pretty. I mean, I doubt it's the first time they ever turned your show on when they had, on a long drive, turned it on with their kids in their car.
Right.
You'd figure out real quick too, like, oh, let's not listen to this one right now. Maybe this is something Daddy should listen to later.
Yeah. The Jim Shockey one would probably be safe to listen to. Like some of those, when we're kind of being on our best behavior, interviewing some of our idols. But yeah, like it's not that type of show, and I don't want it to be honest.
Did you, from starting out, did you see steady growth, or were there periods of things that happened along the way where it was like, wow, all right, like that was a big thing? Like kind of walk me through like the growth process, because I know you have a big loyal following now, and obviously when you started out, I mean, you're probably like most people looking at your downloads and, I don't know, couple dozen, couple hundred. couple thousand,
Yeah.
whatever it is. But there's been a big growth factor. Was it all just an uphill steady climb, or was there things along the way that like you figured out where it really started to grow?
I would say for a while it was just kind of like a slow, steady climb, and then I feel like once you hit a point, like you've established yourself enough, like you've done enough, solid episodes, or what I would consider like solid or like good content, and have a few of them under your belt, and you're not like, you kind of like proven that you're not a flash in the pan. Like you didn't just start a podcast to turn around and quit having a podcast. I feel like it kind of, people probably start to pay attention a little more, and it's honestly nothing like crazy has happened. Like I've seen growth after doing certain episodes or like doing certain strategies that I'm trying in my head, but it's been, I'd say real slow gradual, and then now more steep gradual climb, but definitely hasn't been like an overnight type of thing from like the downloads we have or the listener. I don't even really look at my downloads anymore just because I know I'm happy with them. So I'm focusing on other stuff, which is like a very refreshing feeling. Because I feel like with a lot of new podcasters, that's all you're worried about. You're just looking at that monthly download number, like, come on, get better, get better. And that's fine too. You set goals and stuff like that. But, and I guess also, I think I kind of just go through phases. Like, in 2 months I could go back to doing that. But right now I'm kind of just in like free float, having fun, doing what I'm going to do. I'm not worrying about nothing. I'm just enjoying having the podcast and having conversation right now. And, then that's just like a personal thing for me, right? In this moment in podcasting.
Is there a trend for you where that if you put up like high profile guests or certain episodes that you guys post where you'll get a spike in downloads? Any kind of trend that you've noticed over the years?
Like anytime it's Jim Shockey's on, just using him as an example because he's like one of the biggest. Like you're gonna get a couple more downloads, maybe faster than you normally would, just because it's like it's a big name. But I find now that we have like a listening base, like an established listening base, and just some rad people that support us and in general on social pages, and even guys that don't even do social that'll like email us in. Just a lot of people, like when we have like a good hearty conversation or some deep conversation, like we had Johnny Utah on our last episode and we did over 3 hours, and I think that one will do really well than anyone with Jim Shockey or Bone Collector, because of just how into the convo and how smooth flowing things are going. Like Cody DeQuist was one of our good friends. Episode 300 we did. We just had Cody, and it was, I think, a touch over 3 hours also. And that's one of the highest downloaded episodes of the year, I think. I'll have to go back and look. But it just, people enjoyed it because it's just us sitting down and getting like down to the nitty gritty and our conversation and stuff like that. So I always find like those types of podcasts do a lot better. Not necessarily because they're longer, but just because the type of conversation and like the type of mood everyone's in. For that type of episode. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to describe it, but
it does, because what you're doing is you're putting out a conversation where everybody is like, damn, I'd like to be sitting there hanging out with those guys. And when it's a totally different feel than when you have somebody in on a phone line. That is great to listen to, and that content can be outstanding, and that can be an outstanding podcast. But it still just has a different feeling knowing that all these guys are sitting in this room drinking beers, shooting the shit, and these are the kind of guys that, if I got an invite to sit in, and go hang out with these guys, they would want to be there, and that allows everybody to do so, in my eyes.
Exactly, yeah. Sense. Yeah, exactly. And that's why for 2020, it's like we're going to try and do as many in-studio guests as we can. It's going to be a lot bigger challenge, especially like during the week. Like there's some people that 3-4 hours away or longer that want to make the show, and we're going to try. I mean, that's all we can do, but that's kind of the goal with that, having people in studio. I feel like it just makes for a little better connected, relatable type conversation, and a little more on track conversation as well. I mean, it's weird, a little more on track, but a little more bullshit mixed in with the on track conversation. So I mean, it's just really how conversation is at a hunting camp. It's just hopefully just smooth flowing the entire time is what you hope.
I don't really know. I don't know John at all, actually, but he is good friends with a couple people that I am good friends with, and I know, I know what kind of character that they look for when they're decide to work with somebody, and he works with a few partners that I work with, Exodus Trail Cameras, Prime Archery, and those guys have spoken real highly of him. And I listened to that episode, and that's one of my favorite podcasts that I've listened to in a long time. There was a lot in there. There was a lot of different topics covered. Everything was covered in depth. That bear, the bear hunt conversation and the bear he shot. That bear he shot is pretty unbelievable, really.
Yeah.
That's a once in a thousand or once in a million lifetime bear. Yeah, if anybody hasn't listened to that, I would strongly suggest. What did you put that out last week?
Yep, it's episode 341, the latest episode of Working Class. I don't know when this episode airs, but yeah, episode 341, Johnny Utah.
Yeah, there's some good laughs. There's some good information. There's some good.
Steve gets slapped on the air. That happened.
There's some good social media topics covered.
Yeah, I can't remember. Was it influence versus followers?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it was a fun one, man. But that's kind of the episode I think of when I think of like an episode that does good and like social traffic, downloads, kind of getting like people might be like, hey, listen to this one. Like they talk like just exactly what you just did. Those episodes don't happen as much with those bigger names because we're not in person with them or we don't have the time to sit down for that long with them.
Right. Yeah, you can't get into it's weird. You'd think an hour is a long time, but you kind of just start to get into a conversation. Yeah, when you're sitting around podcasting and you're with a good group of people and you have a good conversation, you can blow through 3 hours. It's pretty amazing.
Oh yeah, dude! I remember watching the 1 hour timer go by on that episode. I'm like, shit, we ain't even a third through right now. Like I could just, you can just feel it sometimes.
Right.
Like last time we had Cody on for like a full length episode, like episode 300. Same way, like we blew past an hour. I'm like, shit, this might be a 5 hour episode.
We set out to do something similar, to be able to get together all the time and do that. And it's been we did a lot of 2.5, 3 hour podcasts, and it's been a long time since we have, but specifically my brother and a couple guys that do my show with me, we're all in the trades, and I'm not exaggerating. I mean, 60, 70, some of these guys work 80-hour work weeks. It's just been, the workload's been insane, and I guess we're all in the realization that it's not always going to be there. The opportunity's not always going to be there to make this money. So nobody's really willing to like pass it up, and it has been a absolute struggle and challenge for us as a group of friends to try to find time to sit down. I mean, we can hardly get on a phone call together with each other. So I really do appreciate and respect the amount of effort that you guys put in. I mean, I know you guys are having fun, and there's a lot of goofing around and everything, but on the serious side of it, I mean, you're really committing some hours.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, work does get in the way and stuff. This might not be a good, for me, I honestly, I don't really tell my job this, but like in my head, it's like, I tell my work to take a back seat to like the podcast, because as far as like the podcast and Working Class Bowhunter as a brand, it's kind of like my dream and my passion and something that I'm willing to put everything forward to. Like, whereas like my job will take a back seat sometimes to it, because if I'm always going to work somewhere, if this podcast ever, I don't even know what I want it to be, but like hunting and outdoors is my passion. That's number one, as far as like career path mindset is. And then if it ever, if I'm never working all day as a podcaster or something in the outdoor industry, then I'll go back and work a regular job, So that's kind of like where my mindset is currently. And that could change. Could change in a year, could change in 10 years, could never change. I don't know.
Yeah. I've gone back and forth just in the few years that I've done this, where there's been weeks where I was like, fuck my job, fuck those guys.
Yep. For sure.
And then there's times where it's like, man, I gotta put this first. Yeah, I guess you're always shuffling your priorities, right?
Yeah, exactly. When I was young, I always so every like part-time job I ever had, because especially like in high school, you're only working nights and weekends, and then during hunting season, I'd be like, "No, I'm hunting," and they'd be like, "Well, that's the only time to work. You got to work." I'm like, "Nah, not though. I'm hunting." So like, that's kind of probably messed up on my part, but I've always kind of like lived by the motto. It's like no one's gonna tell me I'm not gonna hunt, and I took some risks with that. Like when I was on my trip to Oregon, I missed several days in a row of work, kind of like unannounced type things. And because I knew I would rather just do it than tell them about it and then have them tell me no and then do it anyway.
Right.
So I was kind of like, oh, well, they're going to be pissed, but no one's going to tell me not to hunt, especially like if I got a chance to go to Oregon. So I just dealt with it when I got back. I don't know. It's just maybe not smart on my end, but that's kind of my motto. It's like, I don't know. No one's going to tell me not to hunt. Like, anyone, whether, my wife's awesome, but she kind of got the memo when I met her. It's like, no one's going to tell me not to hunt. So just one of those things. Or podcasts, I guess, now at this point.
I'm pretty fortunate in that regard, too, that my wife was never, she'll never say no. I mean, there will be some, you could tell when they're impressed or not impressed, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But there's never been like
you definitely can tell.
A no, don't go. It's usually my own discretion.
Yeah.
Like, probably should save this for another day,
And that's probably the right way to have it, There's a lot of guys' wives, man, that like, you're not hunting for a week. You're coming home. It's like, well, what? It's like, I'm not at the bar, lady. I'm at a hunting camp with my boys. Like, I think there's a lot of that goes on in marriages and stuff, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I'm lucky like you, man. It's like you kind of know when they're getting irritated, so you might take an afternoon off or whatever. And
you know what? I had a good friend, Brian Broderick, told me one time that the guys that get that are usually the guys that don't have their business handled. He said if you have your business handled and you got your shit taken care of and mama's taken care of, you're not going to get that. But if you're fucking off the rest of the year and you don't have shit taken care of and your wife's at home stressed out because there's bills that need to get paid and kids that need to get taken care of, and then you're like, you skate, and I've seen a bit of that, like.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. That's a good point.
You probably do a good job of delegating all your we'll call it spare time to hunting, right? You're not like a big fisherman or have like a ton of other hobbies, right? That's kind of it.
I literally do nothing else but podcast and hunt. I don't care about sports. I don't give a fuck about cars. Like that is probably true. There's something to that there. But then there's also some evil broads out there that just want to change who you are just for the sole fact of power. I think, and you can kind of see it when guys are in those relationships. It's like, dude, nobody's that hot. You got to get out of that.
Yeah, no, there's truth to that. I've seen it go. Yeah, there's some people that are just unreasonable, but. That was
it's just a power thing, for some guys like wives and even some, some chicks' husbands, I guess, a little less common situation. But yeah, like some people just want to control you. Like, you're not doing that just because I said. So it's like, all right. But, I'm lucky where I don't have to deal with that.
Yeah.
And you're right, dude. It's probably because I'm not into anything else.
Well, you've got your household taken care of. You've got your family taken care of. Obviously, your wife's comfortable knowing that everything's, for the most part, you're trustworthy and everything's handled. And yeah, so that was just something that Brian said to me a while back. If you got everything handled, all your business handled.
Good point.
If that point, if your wife can't respect and appreciate that, and you're still, well, then you got another set of circumstances that I shouldn't be giving you, that you shouldn't be listening to my advice on how to handle.
No.
Other podcasts for that.
Yeah, you have some Get Your Life Right podcasts.
So we've kind of went back in time a little bit, and I want to bring it into the little bit more here and now. Your year, dude, you had an outstanding year. Like, all right, I know that there's been a conflict. I guess I don't know if it's a conflict, but the last year or two, it's gotten to be a debate. Who's more hardcore, private land, public land. There's
Oh
there's
yeah,
been that kind of shit going on, and where only public land pounders are hardcore, and they're the only ones that work hard. And I know where you live. There's not many opportunity for public land, right? You're kind of, well, you moved. I don't know where you are now, but you didn't have much opportunity for any. You're going by what, smaller leases,
yep,
what,
yep.
permission property.
There is public. It's just a little. It's a little further out. But yeah, like mostly I'm hunting like small. Either like my smaller lease or it's properties that's like, my father-in-law gave me permission on this 25 acres, or this farm over here said I can hunt this 40 acres. It's kind of stuff like that. I never honestly hunt whitetails on public land. Mostly I don't really want to either though, because I feel like a lot of guys that are like really hitting that hard debate of like the only hardcore guys that are public land guys are just newer dudes who don't really understand the game. You know what I mean? Like they don't understand like how the challenges of like what a 40-acre piece of private is versus like hunting a piece of public. Like they all have their own challenges in their own ways and their own categories. But I feel like that whole private versus public, like big uproar debate, I feel like that's just newer, inexperienced guys trying to cause a buzz online because that's the only place they can act like they know what they're talking about because no one can actually call them on their bullshit in person. You know what I mean? Does that make sense, kind of?
Yeah, some of it's haves and haves nots too. I mean, let's be honest. Nobody wants to see some TV. I'm trying to think. Somebody had said this to me not too long ago. There's I don't know, like the TV personality hunters. Nobody wants to see those guys go to a guided hunt on a ranch and shoot a 170-inch deer and then tell you how hard they worked for it.
Right. Yeah.
When guys don't have the financial means or ability to go
To do
there
that.
and be on there, and they're pounding public, and they might have worked 3 times as hard to shoot a 90-inch
Right.
deer. And there is just, as much as nobody wants to admit it, there's going to be a jealousy factor there. But then there's also a little bit of and I think that we're to a point now where I don't think that is very popular. I think you've seen that with ratings with like the television shows and whatnot,
Yeah.
where it's not just guys. I rather see somebody like the whitetail drifter or whitetail experience guys who are putting video together of them kind of pounding it out and having a storyline versus a 15-minute kill reel with 3 big deer in an open cut cornfield where the guy just showed up. And I guess where I'm going with all this is you hunt private land, and I guess a lot of guys could have taken the idea of or not knowing your backstory or who you are, of how hard you work or how easy, how good a hunting ground that you have. But I watched you this year. I watched you move, become a dad, and punch 2 giant buck tags, clean kills on 2 big deer. And I don't care any circumstances outside of that. That is fucking stellarly impressive to me because I know what goes into moving.
Man.
I know what happens when you become a parent, and I know how hard it is to punch 2 buck tags in a year. And you did all that this year, and I watched you really not like. It didn't seem like you sweated any of it. It didn't really seem like you skipped a beat. And I was like, all right, this Curt guy's fucking for real. Like, like this guy.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, like you're
That's
working.
a great compliment. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I obviously a lot of it circles around your work ethic, and your passion for it. I mean, like you said, nobody's gonna tell me no. I'm just gonna keep going. But that was you had a hell of a year, dude, and I kind of wanted to congratulate you on that, and I kind of wanted to pick your brain on like, dude, come on. You had to have some shit going through your head this year. It was like, how the fuck am I going to make all, like, you moved during hunting season.
Yeah, yeah, dude. Well, one, thank you for all that, man. That means a lot. But yeah, definitely. I did have a stellar year. I'm really excited about it. It's crazy. I had my daughter back in May, right in the middle of turkey season. But let's be honest, they're just turkeys. And then yeah, so that was awesome. And then house shopping. And then what happened was we found the house we wanted. Offer got accepted, and then you know how that goes, like all the way up till close type bullshit.
Hold on.
Of
I got to stop you just real quick. So you had to sell a house and buy a house, right?
Yeah, yep.
So that's like it's complicated.
Yeah, it was stressful, man. And then like I'm planning 2 Western hunts and all that, and then so I got lucky. We listed our house we lived in, which was an older house, like nice, but older. And it sold in 4 days. Like, couldn't believe it. Basically, so then we're waiting on closing on our other house, and then I leave for a South Dakota public land antelope hunt with my boys out in South Dakota, Buckstorm Productions. Great guys. We're trying to do a hunt every year now together. So we go out there, we go on our antelope hunt. I was lucky enough to kill my first antelope. The day I get back, the next day I moved. So I was up like, I don't know how long, moving trailers back and forth, just moving shit into our new house, was home a week, and then left for Oregon to hunt mule deer. So it was like the most insane month of my life.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you're stressing me out. You know what I mean? Like, I was kind of stressing for you. Having been through like buying and selling houses and becoming a dad and having things of that like happen during deer season, like I feel like you
overwhelming, man.
Very quickly throw a wrench in my like steady momentum through hunting season. Is like I'm like just at the seams, ready to burst. I have so much shit going on, and then a curveball comes in, and I'm like, fuck. How am I going to handle this, And I feel like you took on an exceptional workload this year, and fuck, like, I don't know, who could say Curt Geier's not for real after watching you go through this season?
Thanks, man. But yeah, it was crazy, man. A lot of work, a little overwhelming. Where I'm still not moved in because of hunting season, to be honest. I'll be like, oh, we're moved in, like it's all livable and stuff, but it's like I haven't even got to unpack my garage yet. Because of moving in, went on my hunts, got back, hunted hard, and then now I'm just like, ATA and some of the trade shows are coming up, and then I get a window before they start rolling in every weekend, so I'm gonna have to do some work. But yeah, man, it's been crazy. It's been a cool milestone type of year, killing my first antelope, my first mule deer, and then coming back and tagging out on whitetails, man. It's been crazy.
How far did you move from your previous homestead?
Probably 15, 20 minutes south, not too much further,
okay.
but
not too far.
It's same county, but I'm more in big buck country now. Like it makes more sense where our new studio is. Like it's one of those places where I don't have to. Like before, I had an old house. I bought the house when I was like 21, and I was like 22 probably when I bought that house, and it was a nice house, and our studio was nice, but it was very small. So I just found myself like apologizing for it, and you know what I mean? Like guys come over, oh, sorry, it's small, sorry this, sorry that, right. And then plus I had all my deer heads in the house. Well, now at the new studio, it's like out in big buck country. You pulling down our little gravel lane, and it's like now once we redo the studio, it's going to be the spot to actually have guests in studio. So it's something we can be a little more proud of, and it just makes more sense where we're at now than where we were before.
I got you. That's great, man. Good for you. So you were in that house for 10, 15 years?
The one before?
Yeah.
I only lived there for about 5 years.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, I moved in there, and then started the podcast there almost close to the same time.
Okay, I gotcha.
So that what was our studio was almost always our studio. It's like from when I moved in, so it was kind of perfect timing.
Nice. More on this year, you took on another project too. I mean, you got linked up with D'Acquistos. Want to talk about that whole thing from I mean, how did that originate? Did you run into Cody at a trade show? I know you guys talked about it on those podcasts, and those podcasts with Cody are great. People should go
Thanks,
back
man.
and listen to those. And I'm not going to go into details about your kills and stuff because though you've already done those episodes, people should go listen to those too because they're great deer hunting stories. I mean,
Thanks, man.
but so I'm gonna kind of skim past that, but
Yeah, that's
I
fair.
don't
Completely fair.
I don't specifically remember how that all started, how you got linked up with those guys, because Andre D'Acquisto for a while was a ghost, man. I mean, like people heard
Yeah.
about him and knew about him, and they knew he was like the big buck killer that was like best friends with Dan Infault, and was like this whitetail mercenary. And then like podcasts came about, and you got to hear everybody talk about deer hunting, but I never heard Andre D'Acquisto's voice. The first thing I heard from the D'Acquistos was when Cody started doing podcasts, and then actually through Byron. Byron and I have a friendship and a working relationship through through podcasting and deer hunting and media and all that.
Yeah.
So
Byron's a great dude.
Byron is a great dude, and him and Dave and all those guys, they have a good thing going. But he linked me up with Cody, and then not too long after that, Cody was kind of running the gambit, and then boom, you got Andre on, and you guys, I guess it was probably all pre-established that you guys were gonna. I don't know. You want to divulge a little bit on the behind the scenes of how that whole thing came to?
Yeah. Cody and I got to know each other pretty well last winter, really. Like, I guess that started at ATA and then some of the trade shows, and just realized like we had so much in common. Like, the guy lives like an hour. Like, he grew up an hour. Well, I guess he grew up in Milwaukee. Well, he lives like an hour from me, a little longer than an hour, and we have so much in common. And we never knew each other growing up. We just thought it was weird because we were both so into deer hunting. And like back in the day, when they were doing local portable, like my dad had bought tree stands off Andre, and like we were talking about like the timeline of it, and we're like, dude, we had to have been like having conversation when we were young, like 14 or 15 years old, and just didn't realize it. But it was kind of like we just became friends and hit it off really well, kind of the same style. Like, he grew up a skateboard kid. I grew up a BMX kid. He's gauged and tattooed. I'm gauged and tattooed. And we just kind of hit it off, like same kind of mindset on things. And just one of those things, like you just tell like you're going to have like a good friendship with someone just by bullshitting with them. And then he did the Working Class podcast. And then we just got to know each other really well and kept in contact. And then it kind of just snowballed into kind of the idea of like, hey, let's do like a series, like a podcast, like the D'Acquisto series or whatever like that. It kind of like a lot of conversations sort of snowballed into that. Like, Cody be the guy, like we'd talk on the phone, it'd be 2 hours of just like ideas of shit that we were just spitting out, like, dude, we got to do this. And then it's like, well, maybe we should just do a show. And so I was like, well, I'll just produce it and you guys can be the hosts. But Cody's like, no, I want you to be a host on it. And so I kind of turned into being like the moderator type guy on this new series that we call the D'Acquisto series podcast, which I feel like the Steve of our show of Working Class on that podcast. Because, dude, you know how hard it is to try and conversate with big bucks between Andre and Cody?
I feel like you do a good job of keeping it grounded. Really, personally.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It is I mean, it's not difficult, but it like presents a new like hosting challenge for me.
Yeah.
Because those guys are so high level that it's hard to get them to like break shit down into like normal people terms.
Yeah, no, I think it's honestly since the fall. When did you put the first one out?
September, I believe.
Yeah, it's been, right up there, my favorite things to listen to. I mean, as soon as I see one come across, I listen to it. One, Cody's hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody, has had an opportunity to spend any time with Cody, he really is. He's funny. And he's like, he doesn't realize it, I don't think, half the time. Like, he's like innocently humorous.
Yeah.
And those guys are fun to listen to. Like, there well spoken. They're intelligent.
Yep.
They
Yep.
different approaches, and you get a lot of you get a lot for you get a lot of bang for your buck there as far as like committing your time to listening to what they
Yeah.
have to say.
Exactly. Those guys aren't just going to say something just to say it. They're very calculated when it comes to deer hunting, especially. They're not going to, like, if they say it, it's true because they've done it like firsthand. They're not hearing it from somebody else to say it on the podcast. Like what they say on the show,
Well,
whether or not it makes sense with what everybody else says on their podcast, it's whatever they're saying has some value, truth behind it because it happened, or it's true because they've experienced it. And it's like, it's hard to argue with anything they say because they have the proof, the big buck proof, the experience, the proven experience. I mean, the guys produce the best tree stands on the market ever. I don't know if anybody can argue that. Like Andre has developed the king of all tree stand type like platforms, So it's the guys they're actually incredible, man. And Andre is an intimidating motherfucker to be around, but it's cool because once you get to know him, like Andre's a really funny dude, and he'll give you shit in almost like in a fatherly type way, like. We did one of the podcasts. I think it was I can't remember which one it was. It was, I think, one of the ones in October. He was giving me shit because we were podcasting and he wasn't hunting. And so I had to feel the wrath of Andre DeQuisto, like give me shit while we're sitting inside podcasting when he could be out chasing a buck. And by the way, I just want to add that he killed a 204-inch deer the next day. So the next time we get together to podcast, I'm like, you were fine, motherfucker. You went out and killed a 200-inch deer. There's no reason to complain.
right.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah, anybody that knows Cody firsthand knows that everything he says isn't coming from anywhere else because, let's face it, he's pretty much detached from the rest of the world.
Oh, he is. And anybody that like has Cody's number and like tried to call him or text him, you'll know he doesn't look at his fucking phone. Like, just the way the dude is.
Yeah, you could be like Cody, you ever watch Netflix? What's Netflix? Like with the straightest face ever, dude. I never heard of that. What is it?
Yep.
Like,
or you'll call him or text him, you don't hear from him, and he'll hit you back. Hey, dude, just got your text. It's like, I've watched the dude. I've hung out with the guy all day. Like, he puts his phone down. He does not look at his phone. He's 29, my age, and he does not, like, technology is not something he's constantly, like, constantly thinking about. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I assume that he got a lot of that from his dad. I've never met Andre, but I've spent time with Cody, and yeah, he cracks me up. He's a good dude. But it's a good mix between you guys. I feel like you kind of ground and navigate. The thing works because you're involved with it, and the whole thing is it's really perfect. I mean, I hope you guys keep it going for a long time. I know a lot of times with guys like that, like they're very, like, you're not gonna have a 3-hour podcast with them just shooting the shit. Like, they want to talk about deer hunting.
Yeah, but it's business. It's business for sure.
Right. So I know.
And that podcast is it's scheduled to air once a month. That's kind of like what we consider our like release schedule, but we're trying to do twice a month. November and coming in December, like we only got one out in December, just being busy, and they're running a business, like two businesses technically, and then now we're coming into trade show season, so we're gonna get one out in January. I don't know if we'll have two out, but once like trade show season gets clear and we get into the summer, we're hoping to really jump in consistent and trying to do them more frequently, because the feedback on them has been insane. I knew it was going to be good because of them guys, of course, but it's been a lot better than I expected, and people are wanting more and more. And man, guys will just be like, "Hey, I want this topic covered," and just send me like email me or private message me on a Working Class page. Like, this topic, I'd like to hear them just go off on it. So we got a big queue of topics and guests and a bunch of other stuff that I don't really want to get into because it's stuff we're gonna surprise listeners with along the way as we go throughout the year. But we got a lot of stuff planned. It's just, man, getting it together. It's tough.
Yeah, right. Now everybody's coming into It's not really anything that I'm involved with, the trade show season, but I know that you're involved in it heavily, and I know those guys, obviously. I mean, that's their bread and butter. That's their sole living.
Yeah.
They're coming into trade show season, so for the next couple months, everybody's gonna be really busy. You still like doing all that, or does it? I mean, it's got to be kind of exciting to get to see a lot of people that you don't get to see regularly or whatnot. But I know it's kind of the wear and tear of being out of the house and being away from your family and setting the time aside from it too, right?
Yeah, it's fun, man. Like, so like ATA is coming up this weekend. That's always fun. That's can be kind of overwhelming. We do a lot of podcasts at ATA usually. We're trying to do less and more enjoy the show and kind of meet some people and some potential guests in the future. But and I find ourselves we're booking up like what was open. I'm already like tonight before I jumped on this podcast with you. I booked 3 episodes on our off day, and then I know we're gonna have more booked in. So we'll have 3 full days of podcasting, and then we have Nebraska the weekend after, and we're doing Des Moines, Columbus, Ohio, Madison, Wisconsin, a couple more shows in Peoria and Bloomington, Illinois, and so they're fun, man. I like doing them. We get to like talk to people. A lot of people get to learn about our show. But most importantly, I like connecting with people that have heard of us or listened to the show before and kind of shooting the shit with them. And it's kind of turned into a thing where people come up to the booth and like force Steve to chug a beer, which has kind of turned into a fun thing. At Ohio Classic, we had people bringing us 12 packs of Busch Light, and I don't know how many cases of Busch Light we had at the booth. It was pretty awesome, actually, getting to kind of hang out with everybody.
I'm hoping that this year I'm going to have some time towards the later part of the summer where, what's the one? There's one in Wisconsin, right, that I think everybody really prefers.
Deer Fest.
Am I right about that? Is that a fun one?
I'm skipping it this year, I think.
Oh, okay.
We got talked into doing it last year. Well, okay, hold on. Getting talked into it sounds bad. We weren't gonna do it, and then we end up having a booth there, and that's a fun show. But to me, that show is nothing special. Like, it's a good time. Like, I like to see my friends and stuff that go to the show. But they booked that show, I guess from my perspective, for someone that had a booth there, they booked that show the same time as like the Milwaukee Fair. And so everyone's at the fair and nobody goes to the show. Oh. So it kind of is this real slow lollygag. It's more of a drinking fest than it is like a hunting show, because we sat there and drank old fashions and Busch Light the whole time to like keep ourselves busy when no one was at the show.
That doesn't sound terrible.
So that's up to you, man. You can make that. I mean, it's a good time. I don't know if we'll be there or not.
Yeah, I've just heard a lot of guys, maybe, and it was the guys that are used to having really busy booths, and by that time they're kind of burnt out on it, that they liked that show because it wasn't so busy. That if that's possible. I don't know. I've never been there. I've just heard a few guys, vendors, say that they liked that show because it was laid back, or they had a good time. The crowd was good, whatever reason.
Yeah, last year I heard a lot of buzz from the booth saying that they didn't even cover their cost.
Yeah. So, okay.
I don't know how it'll go this year, to be honest. I would say if you're going to go to, because that show's in West Bend, Wisconsin, if you're going to do that, you might as well do the show that's in Madison, Wisconsin. That show's good.
Which one is that?
That's the it's the Field and Stream.
Okay.
Illinois or Wisconsin Deer and Turkey Expo, or whatever they call it now.
Yeah.
But that's in Madison in March. I think it's in March. First weekend of April. I can't remember exactly. But that show is good. That's a fun show. Ton of people. I had a blast at that show last year. Probably one of my favorites.
I go to that one every year in Michigan, and it's not a big show here, but it's always I don't know, I've always enjoyed it anyways at the venue that it's at. It's like the right size and you can see everything, whatnot. But I've never been a vendor at any of those shows. I've just gone to a few of them, but I'm hoping maybe later part of this year I'll be able to get out to them. I enjoy them now because I just the nature of doing this, I know a lot of people now and it's fun. I don't get to see those people but once a year. So, and you know how fast a year goes by nowadays. So.
Yeah. No, it is fun, man. Like going to the shows, and I just like seeing my friends and meeting new people. And like if someone's ever listened to the podcast and comes up and drinks a beer with us, it's pretty cool.
Well, one thing we did talk about here, when I was talking on the phone with you last week, is that your shoot that you started doing a few years ago. That's something that I'm going to try to make this year, and that's at some point in the summer. You get a bunch of people together and shoot bows and kind of have a hangout, right?
Yeah, man, we do it every year. I'm trying to plan it out this year so it's bigger and better, but it's actually a difficult thing to do is to be like, hey, let me have 200 people with bows take over a property, and then we're going to drink beer and camp at night. Is that cool?
No one's going to get hurt.
It's tough to kind of like,
Yeah, liability factor there.
yeah, everything's against me, and I'm kind of like solo trying to plan all this stuff. So we did it on some private ground last year that worked out really, really well. And it's the spot is so nice that I'm a little worried about opening it to the public, like public advertisement. Because before we always did it like, if you are interested in going, we still have availability. Email me. I'll send you a registration link. You register. I file that you're going to be there, and then that's how it worked. And we've had like a lot of shooters show. A lot of people show up. I think we had almost 100 shooters last year on the course, and then this year I'm wanting to do it public, like open public, invite like everyone come out for the weekend. And I'm working with an archery club with it to try and do that. And there's a campground nearby that we have to talk to see if they can do camping. So it's going to be a little different whereas like the camping won't be on site. So I don't know. I gotta, once we get through ATA and the Nebraska show, I got to really think and buckle down on what we want to try and do. But I'm hoping I can just full blown open to the public and open advertise, come on out and get all of our sponsors and maybe just team up with some people about doing some product giveaways and stuff like that to kind of make people, the drive worthwhile or coming out and shooting and maybe being able to have a chance to win a prize or something like that.
Yeah. I wouldn't stress out about it. Either way, it's going to be a good time. I've found a lot of times, I don't know if you still getting over that ammonia, huh?
Yeah. I'm almost out of it, man.
Sometimes having the right 100 people is better than having 200 people where 50 of them aren't the perfect fit, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
and that's the thing, it's tough.
So either way, it's going to work out for you because it'll be cool if you have a ton of people there, but it'll also be cool if you just kind of get your hardcore group of guys that are. I'm assuming you charge for it to cover costs and everything, right?
Yeah, we charge a little bit just to cover costs. That's doing it on private property and like covering with insurance and stuff like that. Yeah. Whereas if we do it at a club, they're already insured and have all that, and they have the capacity, and they already have the targets, and and concessions and bathrooms and all that. So all I have to worry about is like benefiting the club and making sure things go smoothly. Where if I do it on my own, we have to worry about setting up the course, setting up the insurance, getting the food, setting up bathroom stuff like that, where people are going to camp, like capacity, how many people can camp. Don't want to piss the property. It just ends up being a big mess really fast. It turns into being a pretty stressful event, and then we host it, so, and I'm there with a big megaphone yelling into it, doing registration and raffles and stuff like that. So it's a ton of fun, but man, it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to hope that it aligns where the dates line up that I'm able to come out to that this year because I've seen the pictures from it the last couple of years and definitely looks like something that I want to be involved.
Oh, dude, it's a blast, man. You'll have a great time.
Yeah, I kind of want to
just be fun to hang out,
Yeah, I kind of want to show Cody the importance of a peep sight too at the same time. So,
dude, I ripped his ass this year about his archery equipment. It was pretty funny, actually.
He deserves it.
Yeah, I think you might have talked about that. Oh man, yeah, it's great. Well, hey, if you come out, you have to come into the studio and we'll do like a 2-way pot, like we could do Yeah, we could just do a two-way podcast for record and release it on both platforms.
Yeah, it would be an absolute blast. That's what I would do. I would make a couple day trip out of it, come out there, and I might even make an extended trip. And there's some other friends that I have out that way that I never get to see, where I could maybe come out there for a week and hit a couple different stops and make like a little tour out of it. You know what I mean? So.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, my yard where I live now is big enough, so I thought about having like a bunch of like what we call right now. We're going to change the name, but like the Team Hay and Bang like crew, and then like all of our good friends that come over. Like I have a big yard that's just like made for camping, and hopefully, hopefully it's a nice weekend, and everybody can kind of hang out and kind of call my pad like the home base, and we can get some podcasts in and do that type of thing.
Very cool, man. Well, I'll look forward to it. I'm going to let you get going here because I know you're packing up. What? You're heading to ATA when?
The boys leave for ATA Wednesday night. I will be out Thursday night. So I'm missing the first day of the show, but we'll be there. Yeah, we'll be at ATA getting ready to rock, recording podcasts and drinking Busch Light.
Is there anything else you want to maybe touch on, or anything you got planned for this year coming up that you want to talk about before we get going here? I mean, anything you're personally looking forward to?
Man, I'm just looking forward to all the trade shows, getting to see everyone. And then I guess right now, all that I can think of right now is check out Working Class Bowhunter podcast and the DeQuisto Series podcast. So those are my two babies currently.
Awesome, dude. I'm going to try to stick with your work ethic here this evening and edit this thing together and get it live here tonight for everybody to listen to. It's not that uncommon for me to sit on a recorded episode for a week or two, and I know it's always amazing to me when I hang up the phone with you. You're like, yeah, dude, it's live. I'm like, what do you mean it's live? I just got off the phone with you. Like, how's it live?
Yeah, no, dude, it is nice though when you can have a backstock, because like I have podcasts from when I was in Oregon that I haven't released that I'm launching this week. From like, it was like the recap of like the hunts and stuff like that.
Nice.
I never aired it because I came back and was like, right off the animal, or right out from that hunt, right into the whitetail season, just boom, 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 launching a whitetail podcast. And so we recorded it a two-way on Loophold's podcast and ours. So now I'm launching on our side. So it's about perfect timing.
Well, all your links will be in the podcast notes. Nobody will need to click on them. Everybody's already following and listened to your show that listens to this. If not, well, I'd be shocked. But that stuff will be there if you're a first-time listener and you want to go find everything Curt's up to. All the links will be in the show notes. So cool, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely, it was a blast. I'm glad we finally got to sit down and have a conversation. We probably could talk for another couple hours, but I know you got things to do and I got things to do. And
yeah, man, it's crazy right now lately. It's crazy, but yeah, I'm hoping you make it down and we'll actually sit down, have a good conversation, have a good just let it go. Don't worry about, it's been an hour, time to wrap her up. We can just let it rock.
Exactly. Well, good deal, dude. Maybe punch Steve in the balls for me, just not too hard, a little bit the next time you see him.
Oh yeah.
And I'll talk to you here soon.
All right, brother. I appreciate you.
All right, Curt. Safe travels on your shows, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks, brother.
See you.
Take care.